We are kicking off today with Ronda Rousey, who has had plenty to say about WWE in recent weeks, and the vast majority of it has not been positive. While Rousey has shared her love for the women of the roster, she has also spoken about a toxic culture in WWE and has now made an allegation against Drew Gulak. During her appearance on News Nation, Ronda Rousey claimed that Drew Gulak acted inappropriately towards her by grabbing the string of her sweatpants. She said, "This guy grabs the string of my sweatpants and no one reacts as if this is abnormal. He grabs it and starts going down the hall and I'm like, what the fuck was that? Why are you grabbing the string of my sweatpants?" All the guys around me were just like, it's part of the day. I'm like, if this guy is coming up to me and doing this kind of stuff to me where there are other people around, what's happening to these other girls when he's not in a hallway? That really put me on edge. During the interview, Rousey couldn't recall the name of the alleged perpetrator, but later said she remembers it being Gulak. Rousey added that she later confronted Gulak and warned him that they'll have a problem if he ever put his hands on her or any other woman in the company. Gulak, according to Rousey, immediately backed off, saying he was glad she'd said something, but Rousey said it left a sour taste in her mouth about the culture within WWE. Given the scandals that have rocked WWE in recent years, the notion of a man playing with a woman's drawstring is not a good look, especially as it's so close to the crotch. On Twitter, Drew Gulak addressed the allegation and said that he did apologize to Rousey, but that this was not a malicious act. He stated, "Backstage at a WWE event in 2022, I saw Ronda talking with a group in the hallway. I stopped to say hi and shake all their hands, and in an attempt to shake her hand, I accidentally touched her drawstring. Complete accident, and one that I had apologized to her for the mishap. This is a concerning situation, and we don't want to say people should believe one side or the other, but we'll keep following this matter for any further updates." Rousey's allegations against Gulak is just the latest comment from the former women's champion, who has spoken at length about WWE's toxic backstage culture. Rousey has spoken about Vince McMahon and has said she wouldn't return to WWE unless some dramatic changes are made, but what do those in WWE think of all this? On a recent edition of Sportskeeda's Wrestle Binge podcast, Corey Graves was asked about Rousey and made clear that he always got on well with the UFC Hall of Famer. Graves said that in wrestling, one has to take everything with a grain of salt, and while Ronda's entitled to her opinion, he's not inclined to agree with her. Choosing his words carefully, Graves said that he may downright disagree with some of the things Rousey has said, but didn't give a specific example of something he thinks was wrong. Graves added that he's sorry if Rousey feels this way about her time with WWE, and that she's got a lot of fans around the world who are grateful for her time as a superstar. With no intentions on returning, Rousey feels free to speak her mind about WWE. But what do you make of her comments and Graves' response? Let us know in the comments below. Over to AEW Dynamite now, as Adam Copeland kicked off the show and spoke to the crowd about watching the WWF, Stampede Wrestling, and the NWA growing up. Copeland said he came to AEW because there's a lot of first-time matches before bringing out Will Ospreay, and shook his hand ahead of the first match of the evening. In a battle of the Wills, Ospreay tried to jump Powerhouse Hobbs after the bell, but was knocked down by his larger opponent, and it was Hobbs who was the aggressor early on. After we returned from a break, Ospreay was beginning to build some momentum as he hit a beautiful handspring kick off the ropes, and this was a great clash of different styles. Hobbs was a great base for the high flyer, while Ospreay did an excellent job making Hobbs look like a true badass, and this match likely exceeded the already high expectations. Hobbs kicked out of Ospreay's signature cutter, but he was unable to do the same after being hit with the hidden blade, and the Powerhouse was angry after the match. It was up to Don Callis to try and play peacemaker, and Bryan Danielson came out while Ospreay was leaving just to steal some thunder from the Don Callis family. Danielson's match was up next, and Lance Archer didn't wait for the bell to ring as he nailed Danielson with a running forearm as soon as he got in the ring. The Murder Hawk Monster dominated the first few minutes, and Danielson didn't get any offense in until he managed to counter a kick with a Dragon Screw leg whip. This took the big man down, and Danielson is one of the few smaller guys who can convincingly strike down a bigger opponent and has spent years building that legitimacy. Archer regained control and dished out a lot of damage during the break, and it felt like the Powerhouse had his number at every turn. Archer body slamming a crew member onto Danielson was pretty funny, but the way Danielson countered the blackout into a sleeper hold looked very good. In the end, Danielson hit 3 kicks to the head followed by a running knee for the win, and this was a fun encounter, but could have been better had it happened later in the show. It may have been better to have put more space between the two matches, with powerhouses losing to smaller, fan-acclaimed wrestlers, but this is a minor complaint. Lance Archer is fine without Jake Roberts by his side, but what he really needs is a few wins under his belt, as this was yet another loss for the Murder Hawk Monster. For years now, Roman Reigns has dominated over WWE like nobody else, and to the surprise of nobody, is often the top-ranked superstar in WWE's 2K video games. Now though, Reigns has appeared in a much different game, as he's been added to the NFL's Madden 24 game as part of the Ultimate Team feature. Reigns is available as a right-end player, and he's not the only notable name to be dropped, as Burt Reynolds has also been added to the game. Reigns played football for years and was briefly part of NFL's Minnesota Vikings and Jacksonville Jaguars, but wouldn't go far thanks to health issues and hard luck. After a stint in the Canadian Football League, Reigns retired from football to pursue wrestling, but the Tribal Chief has now returned to the gridiron as part of Madden 24. Over to Smackdown, as there is just one show left to go before WrestleMania 40, and tomorrow night's show could be loaded with star power. While The Rock isn't confirmed for the show, the Bloodline will no doubt be appearing on the broadcast in some fashion, and could quickly find themselves being targeted. According to sources within WWE, one pitched idea is for Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes to invade SmackDown and attack any Bloodline member that's in the building. This would certainly send a strong impression to The Rock and Roman Reigns, and would give some added excitement so close to the matches at WrestleMania 40. But what do you make of this idea? Are you excited at the prospect of Rhodes and Rollins invading SmackDown? Let us know in the comments. In recent weeks, Randy Orton and Kevin Owens have bonded over their disdain of US Champion Logan Paul, and all three are set for a triple threat at WrestleMania 40. According to sources, one idea pitched for tomorrow's show would see Owens turn on Orton, showing that there's no allies when it comes to winning the US Championship. The reasoning presented would be that Owens is turning on Orton before the Viper could do the same to him, leaning into Randy's past for not being someone to trust. Owens, Orton, and Paul have the potential to steal the show at WrestleMania 40, and what do you make of this idea we could see play out tomorrow night on SmackDown? Back to Dynamite now, as Renee Paquette brought out Chris Jericho so he could talk to Hook, and the veteran asked Hook to believe in him. Hook said he got them a match on Collision this week, but he is going to keep his eye on the former AEW World Champion. The segment did not go down well, with some fans even booing in the arena, perhaps because they felt this segment didn't add anything new to the storyline. Having Paquette come out just so Jericho could bring out Hook was also a unique move, as this is a segment that could have played out backstage in half the time. In a battle of three-man champions, AEW Trios champion Daddy Ass defeated ROH World Six-Man Tag champion Jay White, but this wasn't a fun win for Billy Gunn. The veteran got the DQ win after White hit the low blow, and while the Acclaimed were able to send Bullet Club Gold running, there was nothing too memorable here. Willow Nightingale came out with Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway for an interview with Renee Paquette, but Mercedes Moné would quickly interrupt proceedings. Moné declared that she will be coming after whoever leaves AEW Dynasty as TBS champion, and this was a short segment that did what it needed and gave Willow some nice reactions. In an AEW World Tag Team Championships Tournament semifinals match, the Young Bucks took on the Best Friends Orange Cassidy and Trent Beretta. Sue accompanied OC and Trent to the ring. While not to be outdone, Matt Jackson said during the Bucks entrance, "Yo, Scapegoat, I love your work." This was obviously a nod to the Scapegoat Jack Perry, and the closest fans have gotten to Perry being referenced on AEW programming in a very long time. Beretta and Matthew started for their teams, but it didn't take long for OC to tag in, and Nick got on commentary when the Bucks were in control and through to commercial. This was a solid encounter from four guys who have been consistently good performers for AEW, as there were great double team spots and a fun moment with Sue at ringside. The Bucks ended up defeating Best Friends to advance in the tournament by using an exposed turnbuckle to their advantage, cashing their ticket for AEW Dynasty. As Best Friends prepared to do their group hug, Beretta took out Cassidy with a running knee as Taylor looked on confused, and he walked right past his own mom as he left. It'll be interesting to see what's next for the Best Friends from here, but it's clear that Trent's time with the group has come to an end. Thunder Rosa faced Mariah May with a shot at the AEW Women's World Championship on the line, and the match was short but saw Rosa earn a rematch with Toni Storm. The Timeless World Champion was incredible on commentary as expected, and even in defeat, this was the best May has looked in the ring since her AEW arrival. The final segment on this week's show was the contract signing with Samoa Joe and Swerve Strickland ahead of their AEW World Championship match at AEW Dynasty. It ended with Joe leaving Swerve in a pool of his own blood after beating him down with a chain wrapped around his hand, but Strickland refused to be beaten so easily. The look on Joe's face when Swerve got back up and laughed at him was perfect. Joe ran back to the ring and put him through a table to send a message. This week's show had a lot to enjoy, but it felt like the biggest issue was how it was all scheduled, as certain matches could have been spaced out among non-wrestling segments. Ending the show with a contract signing was fine, but AEW is billing itself as the place where the best wrestlers wrestle, and to live up to this claim, a match would have made more sense. Having Ospreay vs. Hobbs in the main event would have been a much better way to end the show, and this was easily the best thing we saw all night. It really gave fans a reminder as to how underrated Powerhouse Hobbs is, and therefore how underutilized he's been throughout much of his AEW career. We've got some concerning news regarding Steve Mongo McMichael, as the NFL and WCW star has been hospitalized yet again. Jarrett Payton, the son of Walter Payton and a friend of the McMichael family, shared that Mongo is currently undergoing tests, but did not specify what these tests are looking for. McMichael has spent years of his life suffering with ALS and other medical issues, and we are sending our very best to him and his family at this difficult time. In January 2025, WWE Raw will move to Netflix as part of a groundbreaking deal for WWE, which comes at a very interesting time for the wrestling promotion. While WWE business is booming, the Vince McMahon lawsuit continues to cast a dark shadow over the company, with some speculating how it could hurt the Netflix deal. Appearing on The Town, WWE President Nick Khan was asked about the lawsuit and whether they could have killed the Netflix deal had they become public knowledge earlier. Khan said that it may not have killed the deal entirely, but it wouldn't have helped WWE, and said that claims are horrific and that WWE is taking them very seriously. Nick also pointed out how swiftly WWE has been dealing with the situation, noting that McMahon resigned quickly and he's not the only one talking about the ex-chairman. On the MMA Hour show, Cody Rhodes was asked about McMahon and said he'd like to see things play out from a legal and court situation and hopes justice is done in full. Rhodes described the McMahon situation as a dark cloud during the Royal Rumble press conference and on the MMA Hour said it's vital to be truthful in situations like these. McMahon is gone from WWE, but his presence is still being felt as the lawsuit against the billionaire and WWE shows no sign of going away. At AEW Big Business, Mercedes Mone officially joined the company, though her debut was hardly a surprise as it had been teased for some time. While Mone isn't making the astronomical figure first reported, she is said to be the highest earning woman in wrestling today, and now we know more about her AEW situation. Fightful Select reports that when Naomi, Tamina, and Bayley attended AEW Big Business, they were given assurances that they wouldn't be filmed due to their WWE status. The report adds that Mone's AEW deal includes perks including her own private locker room, an offer rarely extended to anyone in AEW regardless of sex. In terms of her debut, original pitches included her being at the January 10th Homecoming episode of Dynamite, which took place at the Daily's Place in Jacksonville, Florida. Ultimately, it was decided that the show had enough going on without Mone, and AEW opted to save her for a different show where they could feature her more prominently. Mone is expected to be a huge deal for AEW moving forward, and what have you made to her run with the company so far? Let us know down below. Since returning to WWE, Chelsea Green has been a hit with her comedic antics, but the former tag team champion recently found herself in an awkward situation out of the ring. On Twitter, Green revealed that one day after wrestling at the Barclays Center, she was kicked out of a Fairmont hotel as the staff there mistook her for an escort. Green included a photo of the outfit she was wearing, which includes a white top, denim skirt, and long gray overcoat, which made staff think she was in the other profession. This was certainly an awkward situation for the self-professed hot mess, and we can only imagine what she said after demanding to see the manager at this particular hotel. Since returning to WWE, The Rock has been a must-see name thanks in part to his heel turn, and fans will get the chance to see him up close and in person very soon. On Twitter, WWE announced that the final boss will be at the WWE World event today at 4 p.m. local time in a rare meet-and-greet opportunity with the Brahma Bull. WWE World is the company's 4-day convention surrounding WrestleMania, and we're sure the Great One will prove to be immensely popular when fans get a chance to meet him. The Rock's in-ring return is mere days away, and on last night's edition of The Tonight Show, the final boss and Roman Reigns had some strong words for the competition. On the show, Reigns spoke about Cody's story and said he's reading the wrong book, and made sure to point out that he beat Rhodes at last year's WrestleMania. Reigns added that WrestleMania 40 will be where the book is closed for good on Cody's story, and said that they'll show who the most powerful family in wrestling really is. Cody has said that if he can't finish his story, he might as well move to commentary, and we'll have to see what the future has in store for the American Nightmare this weekend in Philly. And we're ending with more from AEW Dynamite, as, like we said, Adam Copeland opened the show with a promo, and one line in particular has caught the attention of fans. As he spoke about AEW, Copeland said that there has been a lot of negative BS about AEW over the past week, adding that he'd rather focus on the positives about the company. Many have taken this comment as a nod to CM Punk's comments he made on the MMA Hour podcast, in which he said Tony Khan isn't a boss and that AEW's not a real business. Copeland did not mention Punk by name on Dynamite, but do you think this was a nod to the former AEW World Champion? Share your take in the comments section below.